Okay, I'm going to go through and show you some of the practice problems that I gave for homework on worksheet 4-2, and it was multiplying decimals. And I kind of did the problems already, but I kind of want you guys to see how I went ahead and did that. So this is how you do multiplication of decimals. Okay, our problem was 0.3 times 0.5. Now, what I tell you is, here's the problem in complete detail, so you can kind of do it. If you want to pause the video and try it on your own, if you think you're familiar with it already. If not, go ahead and see how I did this one, and then I'll do some practice problems. Pause the video, and then try the problems and see how you do on them. Okay, so how this is different, multiplying decimals from addition and subtraction, is you always have to make sure in addition and subtraction that you line up the decimals when you line up the problem. For multiplication, I tell you, do not worry where the decimal spot is. The only thing you need to do is treat it like a typical multiplication problem. Line them up on the right-hand side, do the multiplication, even with the zeros. So for here, 5 times 3 is 15. I carried the 1. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. I went ahead then to the 0 and did put my 0 down. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. I did my addition. 5, 1, 0. Now here's the key to doing this. You count the numbers, the total amount of numbers to the right of the decimals in both sets of numbers. So there's one number to the right of this decimal and one number to the right of this decimal, with a total of 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. I start here, and I always kind of do this almost like a whole. To count my decimals. I know there's a total of 2 decimals to the right of the decimal points in these numbers. So I start here and go 1, 2, I place my decimal point, and I write my number, 0.15. And that is what your solution is, okay? So you're always counting. You don't pay attention to the decimal while you're doing the multiplication problem. I always do the zeros, even though you might wonder why, but in some of these problems you're going to see, you're going to need that 0 when you're counting the spots. But for this one you didn't. You just kind of counted the total numbers of numbers to the right of the decimal in both numbers, and that's how many in total you move over, okay? So if you're still confused, don't worry, we have some more problems. I did. Next problem is number 5. So here's number 5, okay? Number 5 was 2 3/10 times 1 21/100. 2.3 times 1.21. Now, if this was a regular multiplication problem, ignoring the decimal, I'd always put the number with the most numbers on the top. So there's 3 numbers here and 2 here. Ignoring the decimal, I still put them here. I line them up on the right. I do the multiplication problem, ignoring the decimal. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Bring down my 0. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. I add them up. I get 3, 8, 7, 2. Now, how many total numbers are to the right of the decimals in both of these? Well, there's 2 here, plus 1 here. That's a total of 3 decimal spaces. So I'm starting at my far right and counting 3. 1, 2, 3. I place my decimal point, and here's my solution, 2.783. Okay? So I did my multiplication problem, not even paying attention to the decimal, and to the very end, when I count the total amount of numbers to the right of the decimal in both numbers. Here's 2 here, plus 1 here. I start at the right. That's a total of 3 spots. 1, 2, 3, and I place my decimal point. Okay? Next problem is problem number 8. So if you want to try that one on your own and see if you get the right same solution, please feel free to do that. Okay, problem number 8. Okay, it was 8.54 times 3.27. Well, they both have 3 numbers in them, so I just went ahead and lined them up on the right and did the multiplication. 7 times 4 is 28, carried the 2. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 2 is 37, carried the 3 and put the 7 down here. went ahead and did my multiplication problem. At the end, I added them all up and came up with 279258. Now here's where I count all of the numbers to the right of the decimal spot in both sets of numbers. Here, there's the 5 and the 4, so that's 2 spots to the right of the decimal, and here's 2 more to the right, so 2 plus 2 is 4 spots to the right of the decimal. Here's my solution. I start here and count 4 decimal spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. I put down my decimal and I rewrite the number as 27.9258, and that is my solution. So remember, you're going to do the multiplication problem as is without paying attention to the decimal until the very end, and then you count the number of decimal spots to the right of the decimal. Okay. Last one is, oh wait, no, I have problem 18. Okay, problem 18 from 4-2 was 0.025 times 17.1. Okay, this number with the zeros, counting the zeros, has 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers in it. This one has 3, so this one goes on the top. I'm going to multiply it by 17.1. I'm going to do the multiplication even with the zeros. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 0 is 0. I'm still going to do the zeros. Add my 0 at the bottom, do the 10 spots, multiply these out, put my 2 zeros, and then multiply out the 1. Add everything up, and I get 004275. How many numbers? This is where I count all the numbers to the right of the decimal spot. There's 3 in this one, plus 1 here. Total amount of numbers to the right of the decimal spot. 3 plus 1 is 4. There are 3 numbers here to the right of the decimal and 1 number here to the right of the decimal. So that's a total of 4 decimal spaces. I'm going to start here, move myself 4 decimal spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Place my decimal there, and here's my solution, 0.4275. You don't have to put the extra 0. You can, but it's typically not necessary when you have more than 1 0 here. You can just stick with the 1. So my solution is 0.4275. Okay, next problem. I think I just did some practice problems for you. Let's see. These are just some additional practice problems. These aren't in the homework, just ones that I think might be of use to you. So let's go ahead and try this. Sorry. Okay, we'll do the first one and then I'll adjust it. I gave you a practice problem of point. I don't know if you can see that point very well, but there's a decimal here. I want to make sure you can see that. 0.1234 times the number 7. Now notice there's no decimal in here, but it doesn't matter because I tell you to ignore the decimal when you do the multiplication problem. So it's 0.1234 times the number 7. You're going to do the multiplication as if there's no, just ignore the decimal. So after I multiply this out, the 7 times all of this, I get up 8638. Now I'm going to count the total amount of numbers to the right of the decimal. These are just where I carried my numbers, so I'm going to kind of cross it out so you don't get confused. How many numbers are to the right of the decimal? Well, here in this number there are 4 numbers to the right of the decimal, but in the 7 there's no decimal, so there's 0. So there's only 4 numbers to the right of the decimal. So I'm going to start here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, and my solution is 0.8638. Okay? So there's a good example for you to see how that works. Now here's one where I gave you one where it was 0.1111 times 0.007. Okay? I went ahead and did the multiplication, and remember, I still did all of the zeros. When I got to the 10 spot, I brought my 0 down and multiplied 0 times all of these ones, and even with the hundreds spot here, I did 0, 2 zeros here, and then multiplied the 0 times all of these ones, and I came up with 0.007777 when I add them all up. Now, when I came up with my solution, actually it was this, okay? This is what I had. I had the 2 zeros and then all the 4 sevens. But when I counted my total number of decimal spaces to the right of the numbers to the right of the decimal, there's 4 in this one and then 3 here. So 4 plus 3 is 7 decimal spaces. So I started here and moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that's all I had. When you run out of decimal spots, you need to add in an extra 0. So I had this. I needed 7 spots. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I ran out, so I went ahead and added in this hole, this like hole right here, put in my decimal and added in a 0. When you don't have enough, you need to add in a 0 to make up for that extra decimal spot. So your final solution is 0.0007777. I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, just see me after class on Saturday. Thanks.